We're looking at the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge, both the 14-inch and the 16-inch model in this video with the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite chipsets. We have the 84 SKU over here, and we have the 80 SKU in the 14-inch. So we have the most powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite chip available on the market right now. It's only available in the Book 4 Edge. I'm gonna dive in deeper into what all this means later in the video. Don't worry, I'm gonna have all the information you need to help you with the decision. Is this laptop right for you? Now, there's a few things that you need to be aware of if you are an early adopter of the Windows ARM chip, so definitely hang on till the middle or so of the video. I'm gonna dive into the apps that are available and how to utilize them and what's happening here. So there's so much information to be covered in this video. Now, this was all made possible by the sponsor of this video, Best Buy. They were able to hook me up with both a 14-inch model and I was able to get the 16-inch model so you can get a full comprehensive review of which one is right for you. I want to thank Best Buy for sponsoring this video and providing some of the best deals you can find anywhere online. Best Buy makes shopping wildly convenient with easy curbside or in-store pickup and super fast delivery on thousands of items, which is great for me since the closest Best Buy is about 40 minutes away. If you're a Best Buy member, if you're not, I highly recommend it. You'll capture exclusive member-only prices. And if you're shopping in store, don't forget to have a blue shirt Best Buy team member scan your app to connect your in-store purchases to your app in order to make sure you capture all of your member benefits. If you're in the US or Canada and you've not been shopping at Best Buy, it is time to get started. Click the link in the description below to check out the brand new 2024 Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge at bestbuy.com. First and foremost, I'm gonna take you into the tour of the design, talk about the features and functionality, get into the possibilities of an upgrade. Can you upgrade this laptop? Can you not? Then dive into the performance and help you select which one will be the best performer for your specific use case. So first and foremost, let's dive into the usability and the build of these laptops. Now, as you can see, the 14-inch is slightly thinner than the 16-inch. And then from a top view, you can see it definitely has about an inch less of overall build size there as well. Now, if we go ahead and pick them up, we're gonna have a laptop that's over 3 pounds here, and we're gonna have a laptop that's just over 2 pounds here for the 14-inch model. So if you're looking for something really thin, nimble, on-the-go friendly, the 14-inch is a fantastic pick. And spoiler alert, the performance on the 14-inch is really good. You do get a bit more with the 16, but if you are, thinking, oh man, but that, slightly more high-performing chipset they're talking about that's only available in the Book 4 16, is that gonna lead me to not be able to get the 14-inch model? Don't fret, I think you're gonna be happy with the performance of the 14-inch if you're really diehard set focused on the 14-inch model. Now, as we go ahead and we flip these laptops to the side, on the left side panel, we have 2 USB Type-Cs and an HDMI for the 16-inch model, and then for the 14-inch, we just have the 2 USB Type-Cs. Now, as we flip the laptops over, you can see we do have an HDMI on the 14-inch and a headphone jack. However, the one thing that we're going to be lacking is going to be the addition of a USB Type-A and a micro SD card reader. So if you're somebody who really likes, the expansiveness of the micro SD card, or if you want the simplicity of having a USB-A, that will not be available to you. You'll have to go ahead and get a dongle for your, USB Type-A devices that you want to plug in, but you have all the essentials that you need. Now, going ahead and looking at the bottom cover of the laptop, you can see it's extremely reminiscent design of one another. It's just a bigger or smaller version. Now, we do have these little fans that I call them, or it looks almost like a fan or a wing design here, and that's where the speakers will actually come out, so you'll get a nice immersive audio experience. Here's a sample of each of the laptops using the speakers. Concerning the audio, I honestly expected it to be a tiny bit more immersive. It's a very good sound, very clear, nice deep basses, nice high and mid tones. I just thought it would feel a little more immersive the way that it's designed. So I'll give you a quick audio sample for yourself. While we have the laptops flipped over, let's talk about the upgrade path. I know I said I would talk about that later in the video, but we're right here right now. Let's just chat. First and foremost, one thing you want to keep in mind is once you purchase this laptop, you will not be able to upgrade it. The RAM and the storage is soldered to the motherboard. So there's no additional M.2 slot, there's no accessible M.2 slot or RAM stick. So whatever you purchase a laptop with is where it's going to stay. Now there's been a lot of conversation and controversy around the fact that it's 16 gigs of RAM and you don't have the option to get up to 32. But because of the nature of the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite chipset, the RAM is closer to the chipset. It's like right in there alongside of it. And so what happens is you have less latency between the RAM and the main CPU. So you're going to get more utilization out of the 16 gigs. The way I look at it in my mind is that you have the number plus another half. So I would say instead of thinking this as 16, technically you have 24, on traditional PC where you can swap the RAM in and out. It's more efficient and therefore it's more powerful and really is better utilized in your system. Also really neat is this is a chassis that has been, built out of CNC aluminum. So you can see these nice little clean notches. I love the interior look of the laptop. Really nice durable aluminum material that wraps different components in order to really keep them nice and sturdy, keep your motherboard nice and locked in. So you're not going to have a lot of press between the motherboard and the exterior of the chassis. It's all going to be, fit together very snug. Not going to have a bunch of parts moving, jostling around. That's a really nice, neat touch. You can see once you actually open the laptop, really nice, sturdy aluminum frame. Now, regarding the fans and ventilation, on the 14-inch model, we have 2 fans, but the center is not a thermal chamber. As we switch over to the 16-inch model, you can see in the middle there is a thermal chamber. You have that more powerful chipset with the 84 SKU, and therefore they've given us a bit more cooling power for the larger 16-inch model. So keep in mind, I'm going to give you a nice noise and decibel test later so you can kind of see how much these fans are going to kick on between the two devices in the performance benchmark section. But I just wanted to kind of give you a quick insight into the internals of the chassis. The battery life on these laptops is ridiculous. Really great results. Also in Photoshop, I have never gotten a battery life as long on a Windows laptop as these laptops. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test the video editing because, well, you'll find out later in the video. Now, as we go ahead and start flipping the laptop over, and let's go ahead and do an open and close with one hand. See how easily these open and close with one hand. You can get a hold of the ridge very easily, and they open very nicely. Now, as we check out the screen flex, almost no screen flex. These aluminum chassis, as I just pointed out while I had the bottom cover off, are so really, I almost want to say they're thick. And that's a positive. Because a lot of times they thin the aluminum out too much. And then you lose that really nice, firm, rigid feel on the chassis. So you can see even for the 14-inch model, it's nice and rigid. And so I love how rigid the chassis is both on the top cover and on the sides and around into the bottom cover. It's a very well-designed laptop. It's, I would say, looking at the Pro 360, the Ultra, I've had these in my studio this year, and this one is really a step up, even from a design standpoint, before we even look at the performance of the Snapdragon X Elite chipset in these two laptops. All right, let's go ahead and look at the bounce. I always like to check out the bounce. There is a bit of bounce, so if you're somebody who travels a lot, maybe you're on a plane, or on a train, or in the back of an Uber, you're gonna have a little bounce. It staples out pretty quickly, but you can see there's still a little bit of shake on the 16. The 14 stabilizes a little bit faster. All right, now as we spin the laptops around, one thing that really stands out to me carrying in from the Pro 360 and the Ultra is the large trackpad on the 16-inch model. Of course, we have the Numpad on the right side. Both come with fingerprint readers, so you can quickly open the device and jump in quickly, get started. And then as you turn your focus towards the 14-inch model, we do not have the Numpad, which is a little bit more to my liking. I'm not a big Numpad user. And then we have the smaller trackpad. So I'm kind of torn because I like a large trackpad, but I like a more consolidated keyboard that's centered on the device. So if I'm going to choose my preference, it would honestly be a 14-inch device because I just like the compact feel of it. It's still a nice 16:10 aspect ratio, so I love that. Both of these are 16:10s. But there are some pros and cons of each one. This one feels a lot more portable, but though the trackpad is a little smaller. One thing I really like about the keyboard is that it is so quiet. It has a nice medium key travel, so it's a little bit more than an Ultrabook. So it has a really nice, strong snapback. Now the trackpads are also great as well. I noticed that the click is a little bit louder on the 14-inch compared to the 16-inch. I think the 16-inch has a little bit nicer feel to it. I'm gonna give you an audio sample of me using both keyboards and trackpads so you can hear for yourself. Now, one thing that really stands out to me about these devices, specifically on the screen, is how dark the darks are. If you look here, I can even get it in the light, and you can barely tell the difference between where the screen starts and where the bezel is. The colors and the tones are so deep that it looks as if it is a true deep black, which is very rare for a lot of displays. And that just speaks into the quality of the display. If you have a laptop display that is lower quality, the darks will not be as dark, right? It'll be almost like a 70% gray or 60% gray. And so it looks mushy. It looks like very low contrast. So the contrast ratio on these screens is beautiful. Both displays are 3K 2880 by 1800 resolution. And then as we look at the brightness, color gamut range, and color accuracy, you'll see slight variations because every display that comes out of the factory is not perfectly tuned to the exact calibrations. So for the 16-inch, it's 397 nits of brightness at 100% sRGB, 98% Adobe RGB, and 98% DCI-P3 at a delta E of 1.41. And for the 14-inch, 401 nits of screen brightness at 100% sRGB, 95% Adobe RGB, and 100% DCI-P3 at a delta E of 1.24. So I just wanted to show you that you may see different results on different reviews, and it's just the discrepancy between the calibration of the monitor as it's coming out of the factory. A big upgrade this year is going to come, of course, with the Microsoft Copilot button. There's a lot of really neat features, but also the connectivity that you're provided with either a tablet or a mobile device, for instance, like the S24 Ultra, that really creates a very immersive experience. And just last week, I was at the Samsung workshop and learned so much about the power and the connectivity between those two devices. One thing that stood out to me is how Copilot really helps you to stay connected with texting and calls and even providing directions or planning for a trip that you have coming up. I had the opportunity to utilize those tools, and it was amazing the efficiency and the accuracy they provided to me. One thing that stood out to me is I would ask Copilot to send a text message, but I would ask it to send it politely. And what was nice is it was able to understand what I meant by that. It didn't just say, hey, please order me a burger, and then added the word politely. It wrote an entire text message in a very polite tone. You're also able to mirror your phone onto your screen, and you can use Circle to Search on your device and your laptop simultaneously. With that, you can find something on your phone, come over to your computer, Circle to Search, and immediately you're off onto your computer where you can be more efficient with the larger screen and better workflow. And so everything works together very nicely. Again, if you're a digital artist, you can hook in your tab and it can be used in that interface. And so you can use maybe your favorite mobile drawing application, but then you're finished. You go ahead and you just drag that file over to your laptop and you can start working on it in, say, Adobe Photoshop. And so it really just allows for a very strong immersive experience with the laptop. If you have not heard, Recall has been recalled for a time, and we're not sure when that's going to be fully released. Basically, Recall is something that provides you with the opportunity to be able to look up things that you have been doing on your computer in the past based on keywords or Circle to Search. And then what you can do is you can quickly recall it. A lot of times, I don't know about you, but myself, I spend time trying to find a file or trying to remember notes from a meeting. And Recall is basically always taking snapshots of your device, but it's storing it locally. And the big, one of the big challenges is, the security of that. And so that is where we're looking forward to that tool in the future. But right now it is not available, but it is something that is coming. We've talked about Microsoft Copilot as well as using Samsung devices as a whole ecosystem. Now, one thing that always stands out to me for the laptops is the ability to quickly cycle through the different performance modes. And they really do make a difference versus quiet and high performance and even optimized if you're trying to get great battery life, have great efficiency, but then have great performance. Speaking of the battery life, and of course, both laptops have webcams along the top bezel. Here's a sample so you can see those for yourself. This is the webcam on the 16-inch Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. This is the webcam on the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge 14-inch model, and a little sample of the audio. Let's go ahead and dive into the performance. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about how each of these laptops is spec'd. The 14-inch model comes with the Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite X1E-80 100. That's a 12-core chipset. Now, it comes with a max multi-thread frequency of 3.4 gigahertz and a dual-core boost of 4 gigahertz. They both come with the Qualcomm Adreno GPU. However, the T-flops on the 14 is going to be a 3.8. Okay, keep that in mind, 3.8, because on the 16, it's going to be a 4.6. I say T-flops. How would you say it? Go ahead. Comment below now. Rage. Get it out of your system, because somebody's going to be mad about that. Okay, moving on. As far as the NPU is concerned, both have the Qualcomm Hexagon with the NPU tops at 45. Keep in mind, you can get the 16-inch model in an 80. You don't have to get it in the 84. You'll save a little bit of money. And as we go through the benchmarks, you can decide for yourself which one's right for you. So let's go ahead and jump into the simulated benchmarks. As you can see, these two laptops absolutely throw down. Some of the best single core performance that I have seen. It's even above something like the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i. That is a massive top tier beast of a gaming laptop. And this single core performance is outpacing that laptop. Absolutely incredible. So these Snapdragons are truly snappy. Now, if we go ahead and look at Cinebench 2024, again, fantastic results both in single core and multi-core. Now, as we head to the real world benchmarks, we're gonna be looking at Photoshop. Okay, one of the things that really needs to be understood here is the evolution of these new ARM chips and what it's like to use them in real-world applications. Currently, Adobe is developing native ARM-based applications for Windows devices using ARM-based chips. All right, and for those of you that do not know what ARM stands for, it is an advanced RISC machine. So Advanced Reduced Instruction Set Computer Machine, or it's the architecture of the chipset. So without getting way too into the weeds, and I'm sure that somebody beloved could comment below and really flesh out all the details for us. But for now, it is reducing the number of instructions needed in order to execute the tasks, and therefore it needs a more efficient chipset. It's a more efficient design, okay? That's gonna be my explanation for this video. In a future one, I'll get deeper. So it's a different type of chipset. So the applications that have existed will not work natively on the chipset. So therefore, they're required to use an emulator. And the emulator that is used for Windows-based ARM chips is called Prism. Okay, so basically what it does is it sees an application that was built for a regular Intel device or an AMD device using that architecture, and it puts an emulation on top of it so that the ARM chip can interpret the application and use it. So what's going to happen is you're going to lose some performance because it's having to run through an emulation. Once they produce the native applications, it will have all the performance of the chipset going into those applications. So for instance, something like Photoshop, I'm gonna pull up the scores now, we're seeing a 6,045 out of the 16-inch model, which actually blows away a lot of the benchmarks we've been seeing from the new Intel Core Ultra 9 185H. Okay, and think about it, this is going through an emulation. So imagine when the application is native. Let's go look at the X1E-80 100 in the 14-inch model. 5,592, okay? As you can see the benchmark results, it is on par, if not beating, most of the 2024 Intel Core Ultra. So what that means is when we remove the emulator and we get native applications, performance is gonna be through the ceiling. However, you're already on par with the competition, and you don't even have the full capabilities because they haven't made apps for it yet. Okay, so I'm trying to paint out this whole picture of, yes, you're an early adopter and you'll get more performance later, but you're getting just as much performance as if you were to buy something else. So you get great performance and then you get more performance later. While running the benchmarks, I noticed that the fans kicked on sooner for the 14-inch model, lacking the thermal chamber, whereas with the 16-inch model with that thermal chamber, it lasted a little bit longer before needing to kick the fans on for the Photoshop benchmark. Keep in mind though, this is a very intense benchmark, pushing the system to the limits. So you're not gonna always be having your fans running while in Photoshop, but when you're pushing it to the max, you'll notice that fan noise around the 36 to 42 decibel range. Okay, now the one downside that I have run into, and I might just be missing something, so please comment below if you've been able to. I've yet to be able to download Premiere Pro. It's not available in Adobe Creative Cloud with these ARM-based chips. And that may change tomorrow, Friday, Monday, I don't know. And I will make a full video or a short posted when I'm like, okay, now, yes, I see Premiere Pro available and I'm running my benchmarks, but I'm unable to run Premiere Pro benchmarks with these devices at this time because I cannot download and use Premiere Pro on the devices with the current firmware, the current update of the laptop. Now, I also wanted to note in DaVinci Resolve 19 beta, they do have a Windows ARM option. However, when I installed it, went to start it, the application would not open for me. And unfortunately, because of the quick turnaround for this review, I've yet to be able to troubleshoot and get it running. So again, I know DaVinci Resolve is available, but I personally was not able to get it going for this review. In the future, I'm anticipating these benchmarks will be included. You're looking at a device in two different sizes that's easily the thinnest, lightest, most powerful, and best built laptops that we've seen from Windows platform in quite a while. And on top of that, the price point is fantastic. $1749 for the top SKU you can possibly buy, $1349 for the 14-inch model, and $1449 for the entry-level 16-inch model, which is very powerful because you saw the benchmarks for the X1E-80 100, which would be the same chip that would be in the entry-level 16-inch model. You have an incredible 3K display that's very color accurate. For the 16-inch, you got a nice large trackpad. For the 14-inch, you have my favorite centered trackpad with no numpad. Personally, I'm a no numpad kind of guy, and it's all packed into Samsung's fantastic ecosystem. So the big question is, do you want to be an early adopter to tap into all the performance that these laptops have to offer currently? And then once the native apps launch, your performance is going to be through the roof. Remember that links are in the description below if you're ready to make a purchase. Please use those if you make a purchase. It definitely helps out my channel, keeps my channel alive, keeps the lights on, and keeps this helpful content coming your way. I'll see y'all here in the next video.